The backpack visible in the FBI footage has been identified. Ozark Trail Hiker Pack, 25-liter capacity, sold exclusively at Walmart stores. That identification, announced by Sheriff Chris Nanos on February 17th, transformed a piece of evidence from an interesting detail into a traceable connection that leads backward through retail infrastructure to the person who purchased it. And when investigators subpoena Walmart for transaction records showing every sale of this specific backpack in the Tucson area during the relevant time frame, those records will include two categories of purchases: credit and debit card transactions that provide names and billing addresses directly, and cash transactions that provide timestamps and store locations but no immediate purchaser identification. Credit card purchases are straightforward for investigators. The name is right there in the transaction data. The billing address is attached to the payment credentials. The purchase history shows what else that person bought at the same time or during other visits to the store. Financial records connect the purchaser to their bank accounts, their employment, their residential address, their entire financial footprint. When you swipe a card, you are not just paying for merchandise. You are creating a comprehensive digital record that can be accessed through legal process, and that provides investigators with immediate identification and extensive background information. But cash purchases require a different investigative approach, and that approach relies on something that many people do not fully understand or think about when they are making purchases they want to keep anonymous. Walmart stores have extensive security camera systems, not just inside the stores monitoring checkout lanes and aisles and ensuring that every transaction is visually documented, but outside the stores as well. In the parking lots, at the entrances and exits, covering the areas where customers park their vehicles and walk to and from the building, monitoring every car that pulls into the property and every car that leaves, recording license plates continuously throughout the day and night, creating a visual database of every vehicle that visits the property. When someone pays cash at Walmart to avoid leaving a paper trail connecting their name to a purchase, they eliminate the transaction record that would identify them through financial data, but they do not eliminate the visual record of their presence at the store. The security cameras in the checkout area record who was at the register when the cash transaction occurred, and the security cameras in the parking lot record what vehicle that person arrived in, what license plate is on that vehicle, where that vehicle was parked, how long it remained on the property, and where that vehicle went when it left. Every vehicle is documented, every plate is captured, and every plate is traceable to a registered owner through DMV databases that connect license numbers to names and addresses. License plates are registered. Every vehicle on the road is connected to a registration record maintained by state departments of motor vehicles. That registration includes the owner's name, the owner's residential address, the owner's date of birth, physical description, driver's license number, and in most cases additional identifying information, including emergency contacts and vehicle insurance details. If you drive to Walmart, if you park in their lot, if you walk into the store and make a cash purchase believing that the cash payment protects your anonymity, and then return to your vehicle and drive away, the parking lot cameras have documented your entire visit. They have documented your vehicle, they have documented your plate, and investigators can use that plate to identify exactly who owns that vehicle and where they live and what they look like and whether they match the suspect description from other evidence. This is the story of how a cash transaction that was supposed to avoid identification becomes traceable through security camera footage and license plate analysis. This is the story of how Walmart's security infrastructure extends far beyond the checkout counter into the parking lot where every vehicle is visible and every plate is recordable, and every customer's presence is documented regardless of how they choose to pay. This is the story of how someone who thought they were being careful, who thought that paying cash would keep them anonymous, who believed they had eliminated the connection between their identity and their purchase, forgot about the cameras that were recording them from the moment they pulled into the lot until the moment they drove away. The cameras that captured their vehicle from multiple angles, the cameras that recorded their license plate with sufficient clarity that enhancement technology could make every digit and letter readable. The cameras that created the visual trail that leads directly back to their name and address through vehicle registration records. If you want to understand how retail security camera systems actually work in practice, how parking lot surveillance creates investigative opportunities that cash purchases cannot eliminate, how license plate recognition technology has transformed the relationship between retail purchases and law enforcement identification capabilities, and how investigators are using this exact methodology right now to identify who purchased the Ozark Trail backpack visible in the Nancy Guthrie case. Then subscribe to True Crime Vault immediately. This channel breaks down the real investigative techniques that law enforcement uses in major cases, the forensic methods and technological capabilities that solve crimes when traditional approaches fail, the security infrastructure and surveillance systems that exist in modern retail environments, and the systematic analysis that turns raw video footage into actionable intelligence that identifies perpetrators. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications because this case is developing rapidly. And when the Walmart investigation produces results, when parking lot camera analysis identifies who purchased that backpack, when license plate data connects to other evidence and convergence leads to identification, you want to understand exactly how it worked and what technology made it possible. Hit that like button as well because this kind of detailed analysis of investigative methodology, this breakdown of how surveillance systems that most people never think about become the tools that solve serious crimes, deserves to reach everyone following this case and everyone interested in understanding how modern investigation actually functions. Now let us examine in comprehensive detail how Walmart security cameras work, how parking lot footage is used to identify cash purchasers, how license plate analysis connects vehicles to registered owners, and how this entire methodology is being applied systematically right now to find who bought that backpack. To understand why parking lot cameras matter so much in tracing cash purchases, we need to first understand the limitations that cash creates for investigators and why retail security footage becomes the essential solution to those limitations. When you make a purchase with a credit card or a debit card, you are creating a digital record that connects you by name to the transaction through multiple layers of financial infrastructure. The payment processing system captures your card information, transmits it to payment networks like Visa or MasterCard or Discover, verifies it against your bank account or credit line through real-time communication with financial institutions, processes the payment by moving funds electronically from your account to the retailer's account, and generates a detailed transaction log that includes your name as it appears on the card, your card number or a tokenized version of it, your billing address as registered with the card issuer, a timestamp showing exactly when the purchase occurred down to the second, and a description of what was purchased including SKU numbers and prices. That transaction log exists in multiple places simultaneously. It exists in the retailer's point-of-sale system and in their transaction database. It exists in the payment processor's records. It exists in your bank's or credit card company's records. It appears on your monthly statement or in your online banking interface. And all of these records are subject to legal process through subpoenas that compel their production in criminal investigations. Credit and debit card purchases are, from an investigative standpoint, self-identifying and self-documenting. The purchaser's identity is embedded in the transaction itself through financial credentials that cannot be separated from the person who owns them. Cash purchases are fundamentally different in their evidentiary characteristics. When you pay with physical currency, no payment processing system is involved because no electronic transfer of funds occurs. No card credentials are captured because no card is presented. No name is recorded in the financial transaction data because cash is anonymous by its nature as a bearer instrument. The cash register records that a sale occurred. The inventory system logs that a specific product SKU was sold and that inventory levels should be adjusted accordingly. The point-of-sale system generates a receipt showing items purchased and amount paid, and the time and date and store location. But nowhere in that transactional record, nowhere in the database that logs the sale, is there identifying information about who handed over the cash and received the merchandise in exchange. For someone who wants to make a purchase without creating a paper trail connecting their name to it, cash seems like the perfect solution. It has always been understood as the anonymous payment method. No credit card company will have a record of what you bought because no credit card was used. No bank statement will list the retailer and the amount because no bank account was debited. No digital trail exists in financial systems that links your identity to the transaction. And for routine purchases that have no investigative significance, that anonymity is real and complete. Your cash purchase of groceries or clothing or household items or any normal retail merchandise is truly anonymous as far as the financial and transactional records are concerned. No investigator could subpoena transaction records and discover your name associated with that purchase because your name does not appear anywhere in those records. But that anonymity depends entirely on there being no other method of identifying who made the purchase. And in modern retail environments, particularly at major national chains like Walmart that have invested heavily in loss prevention and security infrastructure, there are other methods. Security cameras. Cameras inside the store monitoring every checkout lane continuously throughout all hours of operation, and cameras outside the store monitoring parking lots, entrances, exits, vehicle traffic patterns, and the entire perimeter of the property. Cameras that record every customer who enters and leaves. Cameras that record every vehicle that arrives and departs. Cameras that capture license plates with sufficient resolution that the numbers and letters are readable either directly from the footage or through digital enhancement techniques that improve clarity. Let me explain in detail how Walmart's security camera infrastructure is typically configured, because understanding the scope and coverage and technical capabilities of these systems is essential to understanding how they become investigative tools that can defeat the anonymity that cash purchases are supposed to provide. Walmart operates over 4,600 stores in the United States as of 2026. Every one of those stores, from the smallest Walmart neighborhood market locations to the massive Walmart supercenters that span hundreds of thousands of square feet, has an extensive security camera system designed to serve multiple purposes simultaneously. Preventing theft by creating visual deterrence and allowing real-time monitoring of suspicious behavior. Documenting incidents including customer accidents, employee injuries, disputes at checkout, and any events that might result in liability claims or insurance issues. Monitoring employee activity to ensure compliance with company policies and to investigate internal theft or other misconduct. And providing evidence when crimes occur on the property, whether those crimes are retail theft, vehicle break-ins, assaults, or any other criminal activity. Inside the store, cameras are positioned strategically to cover every checkout lane from multiple angles, providing comprehensive visual documentation of every transaction. At manned checkout lanes where cashiers process transactions, there are typically cameras mounted overhead showing the cashier's workspace, the customer standing at the register, and the transaction itself, including items being scanned and bagged. The cameras cover both sides of the checkout counter, ensuring that both employee actions and customer actions are visible. At self-checkout areas where customers scan and bag their own items without cashier assistance, there are cameras monitoring each individual self-checkout station from overhead positions that capture the scanning surface and from forward positions that capture the customer's face and upper body as they complete their purchase. The coverage is comprehensive and overlapping because retail shrinkage, the industry term for loss of merchandise through theft, employee error, or other causes, represents billions of dollars in losses annually, and because transactional disputes, whether they involve claimed overcharges or accusations of not receiving correct change or customers claiming they never received items they paid for, require video documentation to resolve fairly. Walmart cannot afford gaps in coverage. Every transaction needs to be visible on camera. Every customer interaction needs to be documented. And every movement of merchandise from shelves to carts to checkout needs to be traceable through video if questions arise. These interior cameras record continuously throughout all hours of store operation. Walmart supercenters that are open 24 hours record constantly without interruption. Stores that close overnight record during all open hours and often during closed hours as well to monitor for break-ins or unauthorized access. The footage is stored digitally on servers, either locally at the store in dedicated security system server rooms or increasingly in cloud-based storage systems accessible from Walmart's corporate security offices in Bentonville, Arkansas, and from regional loss prevention centers. Retention periods vary by store and by the storage capacity of local systems, but major retailers typically keep footage for at least 30 days and often for 90 days or longer. Some systems retain footage indefinitely for flagged incidents or for periods where legal holds are in place due to ongoing investigations or pending litigation. The quality of these cameras has improved dramatically in recent years as the cost of high-definition camera systems has decreased and as the storage capacity for digital video has expanded through better compression algorithms and cheaper storage media. Modern retail security cameras record in high definition at 1080p resolution or better. Facial features are clearly visible in most footage. Clothing details including logos, patterns, and colors are easily distinguishable. Items being purchased can be identified by type and often by specific brand or model. The footage is time-stamped to the second, allowing precise correlation between video and transaction records. If a cash transaction for an Ozark Trail Hiker Pack occurred at exactly 2:37:42 p.m. on December 15, 2025 at Register 8 in a specific Walmart store, the security camera footage from the camera monitoring that register at that exact moment will show who was standing there completing that purchase, what they were wearing, what they looked like, and any distinctive features or behaviors that might help identify them. But the interior cameras, as important as they are for documenting transactions and monitoring in-store activity, are only part of the security infrastructure. The exterior cameras covering the parking lot and the approaches to the building are equally important and in some ways more valuable for investigative purposes because they capture information that interior cameras cannot. They capture vehicles. They capture license plates. They capture the connection between a person who makes a purchase inside the store and the vehicle they arrived in and departed in. And that connection is what allows investigators to identify cash purchasers who would otherwise remain anonymous. Walmart parking lots are large by necessity. Even smaller Walmart stores designed for neighborhood retail have parking for hundreds of vehicles because the stores are designed as destination shopping locations where customers make substantial purchases and spend significant time browsing and selecting merchandise. Larger Walmart supercenters that combine full grocery sections with general merchandise and often include services like pharmacies, vision centers, auto service bays, and garden centers have parking for thousands of vehicles spread across vast paved lots that can cover 10 or 15 or 20 acres. And those lots are monitored by networks of security cameras mounted on light poles throughout the lot, on the building exterior at strategic positions around the perimeter, at entrance and exit points where vehicles enter and leave the property, and at positions that provide overlapping coverage ensuring that no area of the lot is unmonitored. These exterior cameras serve multiple purposes beyond just security. They document vehicle accidents that occur in the lot, and parking lot accidents are common given the volume of traffic and the mixing of pedestrians with vehicles and the distraction of shoppers who are thinking about their shopping lists rather than focusing on driving. The footage provides evidence that can be used to determine fault and liability when accidents result in insurance claims or lawsuits. The cameras monitor for suspicious activity, for people loitering in the lot without entering the store, for vehicles circling repeatedly, for behavior that might indicate someone is casing the lot looking for vehicles to break into or customers to rob. They document the flow of customer traffic into and out of the store, providing data that helps with staffing decisions and operational planning. And critically for investigative purposes, they record vehicles entering and leaving the property, capturing license plates and vehicle descriptions and the time and date of each visit, creating a comprehensive log of every vehicle that was present at the property during any given time frame. The coverage is designed to ensure that no area of the parking lot is unmonitored and that every vehicle can be tracked from the moment it enters the property until the moment it leaves. Cameras at entrance and exit points capture every vehicle as it arrives and departs. These are typically high-resolution cameras positioned to capture clear images of license plates because plate readability is a priority for both security and for automated systems that track vehicle presence. Cameras covering parking aisles show where vehicles park and show the people who exit those vehicles and walk toward the store. These cameras document the connection between a specific vehicle and a specific person, establishing that the person who later appears on interior cameras making a purchase is the same person who arrived in a particular vehicle. Cameras at building entrances show the transition from parking lot to interior, documenting who enters the store and when and what they are carrying. And in many cases, particularly at newer stores or at stores that have undergone recent security system upgrades, license plate recognition technology is integrated directly into the camera systems, automatically reading and logging every plate that enters the property without requiring human review of the footage. Now let us think carefully and systematically about what this means for someone who makes a cash purchase at Walmart, believing that the cash payment will protect their anonymity. They drive to the store in their personal vehicle. As they enter the parking lot, cameras at the entrance capture their vehicle. The make, model, and color are clearly visible. The license plate on the front of the vehicle, if their state requires front plates, or on the rear if not, is captured by cameras positioned specifically to record plates as vehicles enter. If the store has automated license plate recognition, the plate number is read automatically and logged with a timestamp. They find a parking space and park. Cameras covering that section of the lot record the vehicle's location, the parking space number if spaces are numbered, and the person exiting the vehicle. They walk from their vehicle toward the store entrance. Cameras along the path record their movement, creating a visual trail from the vehicle to the entrance. Their appearance is documented. Height and build are visible. Clothing is clearly shown. Gait and posture are recorded. Any distinctive features or characteristics that might help identify them are captured. They reach the entrance and enter the building. Cameras at the entrance record them crossing the threshold. The timestamp on that footage can be correlated with the timestamp on the parking lot footage, establishing that the person who arrived in the vehicle and the person who entered the store are the same individual. Inside the store, they locate the item they want to purchase, in this case, an Ozark Trail Hiker Pack. They may be visible on interior aisle cameras as they browse the outdoor recreation section or sporting goods area where backpacks are displayed. They select the backpack, place it in their shopping cart, or carry it directly to checkout. They proceed to a checkout lane or self-checkout station. They complete the transaction by paying with cash. The checkout cameras record them at the register. The cash being handed to the cashier or inserted into the self-checkout payment acceptor is visible. The backpack being bagged or being carried out of the store is documented. The receipt is generated by the point-of-sale system, creating a transaction record showing the time, the amount, the items purchased, and the register where the transaction occurred. But no name appears in that record because cash provides no identifying information. They exit the store with their purchase. The entrance cameras record them leaving. They walk back through the parking lot to their vehicle. Cameras along the return path document their movement. They reach their vehicle, get in, and prepare to leave. The cameras covering that section of the lot record them entering the vehicle. They drive to the exit and leave the property. Exit cameras record their departure. The license plate is captured again as they leave. If automated license plate recognition is in use, the departure is logged with a timestamp that can be correlated with the entry timestamp to determine how long the vehicle was on the property. At every stage of this process, from entry to parking to walking to purchase to departure, cameras are recording. And that footage, when combined with the timestamp from the cash transaction visible in the transaction records, creates a complete visual record of who made the purchase even though no name appears in the financial data. Investigators working the Nancy Guthrie case know that an Ozark Trail Hiker Pack was purchased at Walmart. When they receive transaction records showing cash purchases of that specific item, they can request security footage from the specific stores at the specific times of those transactions. And that footage will show them who made those purchases and what vehicles they drove and what license plates were on those vehicles. The vehicle identification is what transforms parking lot footage from interesting video documentation into actionable intelligence that produces names and addresses. Because every vehicle on the road is registered with government authorities. Registration is not optional. It is required by law in every state. When you register a vehicle with your state's Department of Motor Vehicles or equivalent agency, that registration creates a permanent record in government databases connecting the vehicle's license plate to an owner. The record contains the owner's full legal name as it appears on government documents, the owner's residential address, the owner's driver's license number, physical description including height, weight, eye color, hair color, date of birth, and in most states, additional information including emergency contacts, insurance information, vehicle value for tax purposes, and history of previous registrations. License plate databases are maintained by state DMVs and are also accessible to law enforcement through integrated systems that connect local, state, and federal law enforcement databases. The National Crime Information Center, operated by the FBI, includes vehicle registration data. State and regional law enforcement networks provide query access to DMV records, and automated license plate reader databases maintained by private companies and by law enforcement agencies create additional searchable records of where specific plates have been detected. When an investigator has a license plate number obtained from Walmart security footage, they can query these databases and within seconds receive the complete registration information showing who owns that vehicle, where they live, what they look like, and whether the vehicle has been reported stolen or is connected to any criminal investigations. Before we continue deeper into how this investigative process works in practice, take a moment right now to make sure you are subscribed to True Crime Vault and that notifications are turned on. This case is moving fast, and the Walmart backpack investigation is happening right now as we speak. Transaction records are being processed. Security footage is being reviewed frame by frame. License plates are being identified and enhanced and queried through registration databases. Names of vehicle owners are being cross-referenced against the FBI's 40-name suspect list, against Google search records if those exist and are traceable, against DNA candidates from forensic genealogy work, against cell tower data showing which phones were near Nancy's home during critical time frames. When this investigative thread produces a name that connects to other evidence, when the person who bought the backpack is identified through parking lot cameras, and that identification leads to further investigation or to arrest, you want to be here to understand exactly how the security camera methodology worked and what technology made it possible. Hit that like button right now, because this kind of detailed investigative analysis takes significant time and effort to research and produce, and your engagement through likes and comments tells YouTube that this content is valuable and should be recommended to more people who want serious, comprehensive coverage of major cases. And drop a comment below telling us whether you think parking lot cameras will be the key evidence that identifies who purchased the backpack. Do you think someone paid cash thinking it would keep them anonymous without realizing the cameras captured their vehicle and plate? Do you think investigators have already identified the purchaser through this method and are building additional evidence before making an arrest? We want to hear your thoughts and your analysis. Now let us continue examining how this investigation unfolds in practice. The process of connecting cash transactions to vehicle identification through parking lot cameras works like this in systematic detail. Walmart produces transaction records in response to the subpoena showing every sale of an Ozark Trail hiker pack at Tucson area Walmart stores during the time frame investigators specified. That time frame is likely broad enough to capture purchases going back several months before Nancy disappeared, to account for the possibility that the backpack was purchased well in advance of when it was used. The transaction records include a mix of credit card purchases, debit card purchases, and cash purchases. For each transaction, the records show the date and time, the store location, the register number, the SKU for the backpack, the price, and the payment method. Credit and debit card transactions in those records provide immediate identification. The name on the card is right there in the data. Investigators can pull those names and begin background investigation immediately. But cash transactions require the additional step of footage analysis. For each cash transaction, investigators note the store location, the date, the time, and the register number. They then submit requests to Walmart for security camera footage from that specific store for that specific date covering a time window around the transaction. If the transaction occurred at 2:37 p.m., they might request footage from 2:30 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. to capture the customer arriving at checkout, completing the transaction, and leaving the checkout area. Walmart's Loss Prevention Department or Corporate Security Office, depending on how the request is structured, retrieves the requested footage from their storage systems and provides it to investigators. The footage comes in digital format, typically as video files that can be viewed using standard video playback software. The files are time-stamped. The files include camera identification showing which camera in the store recorded each segment of footage, and the files are organized to make it easy for investigators to locate the specific moment of the transaction they are investigating. Investigators view the footage showing the checkout camera for the register where the cash transaction occurred. They see the customer approaching the register. They see items being scanned. They see the Ozark Trail hiker pack being processed. They see cash being exchanged. They see the customer receiving the receipt and the bagged merchandise. And they observe the customer's appearance, clothing, height and build relative to other people and objects in frame, visible physical features, any distinctive characteristics that might aid in identification. But observing the customer's appearance is not the same as knowing their identity. For identification, investigators need either a recognizable face that can be matched through facial recognition technology to existing photographs in law enforcement or DMV databases, or they need to track that customer from the checkout area back to their vehicle in the parking lot. The latter approach is more reliable and more commonly used because facial recognition remains technically and legally complex, while vehicle identification through license plates is straightforward and universally accepted. The tracking process involves requesting additional footage from cameras that cover the path from the checkout register to the store exit and from the exit to the parking lot. Investigators watch the customer leave the checkout area. They follow that customer through interior camera coverage as they walk toward the exit. They note any stops the customer makes, any other people they interact with, any other merchandise they look at. They watch the customer exit the building through entrance camera footage, and then they switch to parking lot camera footage to track where the customer goes. Parking lot footage shows the customer walking from the building entrance through the lot. Investigators watch which direction they walk, which aisle they walk down, where they stop. When the customer reaches a vehicle, gets in, and drives away, that vehicle is the target. That is the vehicle that brought this customer to the store. That is the vehicle whose license plate will identify the purchaser. The cameras covering that area of the parking lot captured the vehicle. The footage shows the make and model and color. It shows the license plate, and it shows the customer getting into the driver's seat or getting into the passenger seat if someone else was driving. If the plate is clearly visible in the footage, investigators can read it directly and query registration databases immediately. If the plate is not clearly visible due to angle or distance or lighting conditions, investigators request that the footage be sent for digital enhancement. Digital image enhancement has advanced significantly in recent years through improvements in both software algorithms and processing power. Software can take low-resolution or partially obscured images and process them through multiple techniques to improve clarity. Algorithms can analyze multiple frames of video showing the same plate from slightly different angles as the vehicle moves and combine the information from those frames to reconstruct a complete and readable plate number. Law enforcement agencies, particularly federal agencies like the FBI, have access to sophisticated enhancement tools developed specifically for forensic video analysis that can extract usable plate numbers from footage that appears unreadable when viewed normally. The enhancement process involves several techniques. Frame averaging combines multiple frames showing the same object to reduce noise and improve clarity. Super-resolution algorithms use information from slightly different perspectives across multiple frames to generate higher resolution images than any single frame contains. Contrast enhancement and edge detection make letters and numbers more distinguishable from background. Motion compensation accounts for camera movement or vehicle movement to stabilize images. And machine learning models trained on thousands of license plate images can predict what partially obscured digits or letters are most likely to be based on patterns and context. Not every plate can be enhanced to readability. Some footage is simply too poor, taken from too far away, too obscured by dirt or damage on the plate itself, or captured from angles that make enhancement impossible. But the success rate is high enough that parking lot camera footage is considered a valuable investigative resource, even when initial review suggests plates may not be clearly visible. Attempting enhancement is standard procedure whenever plates are partially visible but not immediately readable. Once a license plate number is obtained either through direct reading from footage or through enhancement, that plate number is entered into DMV query systems. The query runs against state vehicle registration databases. Within seconds, the system returns the registration record for that plate showing who owns the vehicle. The owner's name, address, date of birth, physical description, and driver's license number are all provided. That information immediately tells investigators whether the registered owner matches the age, gender, and general physical description of the person visible in the footage making the purchase. If the registered owner is a 70-year-old woman and the footage shows a 35-year-old man making the purchase, that suggests the vehicle owner was not the purchaser and that someone else, perhaps a family member or friend or even a thief who stole the vehicle temporarily, was driving. That complicates identification, but does not make it impossible because investigators can interview the registered owner to determine who had access to the vehicle on the date in question. If the registered owner matches the age and general description of the purchaser, that creates a strong connection worth investigating further. The registered owner's name now becomes part of the investigation. That name is entered into every available database and cross-referenced against every piece of evidence that has been developed. Is this person on the FBI's 40-name suspect list? If yes, that is significant convergence. Someone already flagged as a person of interest through other investigative means also purchased the backpack visible in the crime scene footage. Is this person's name in Google search records if subpoenaed data showed who was searching for Nancy's address? If yes, that convergence is powerful. Someone who searched for Nancy's address also bought the backpack. Is this person a candidate identified through forensic genealogy analysis of the DNA from the glove? If yes, that convergence is overwhelming. Someone genetically connected to DNA left at the scene also purchased the backpack. Does this person live in or have documented connections to the Catalina foothills area where Nancy lived? Geographic proximity and local knowledge are important factors because the perpetrator clearly knew where Nancy's home was, knew the layout of her property well enough to locate and disable cameras, and had access to the neighborhood without attracting attention. Someone who lives nearby or who works in the area or who has family connections to that specific geographic location becomes more interesting than someone who lives on the opposite side of Tucson with no apparent connection to the foothills. Does this person have a criminal history? While the person whose DNA is in the glove is not in CODIS, meaning they have not been convicted of offenses that require DNA submission, they might have other arrests or convictions in their background that did not trigger DNA collection. Prior burglaries, prior assaults, prior weapons offenses, prior stalking or harassment charges. Any criminal history that suggests capability for or propensity toward the kind of crime being investigated becomes relevant to assessing whether someone on the vehicle registration list warrants deeper investigation. Does this person match the physical description visible in the FBI footage from Nancy's doorbell camera? The person in that footage is described by the FBI as approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall with an average build. Those measurements come from analysis of the footage comparing the person's height to objects of known dimensions visible in the frame. Anyone identified through parking lot camera footage whose registered driver's license shows a height that matches this estimate becomes more interesting than someone who is significantly taller or shorter. Build as described on the license or visible in DMV photographs can be compared to build visible in the footage. Take a moment right now to visit the True Crime Vault channel and browse through our extensive library of content analyzing major cases. We have dozens of videos breaking down investigative techniques, forensic methods, surveillance technology, and the systematic processes that solve serious crimes. Subscribe so you never miss an upload. Like this video. Leave a comment with your analysis of whether parking lot cameras will successfully identify the backpack purchaser. Your engagement helps this content reach more people who want to understand how modern investigation actually works. Now let us continue with additional dimensions of how vehicle identification leads to deeper investigation. The vehicle itself, once identified through parking lot footage, becomes a subject of investigation beyond just identifying its registered owner. Investigators can query automated license plate reader databases to track where that vehicle has been detected. ALPRs are cameras positioned at fixed locations throughout urban areas at intersections, at highway entry and exit ramps, at toll plazas, in parking garage entrances, at the entrances to gated communities, and at other strategic points where capturing license plates provides value for traffic management, security, or law enforcement purposes. These cameras automatically photograph every license plate that passes, creating a database entry that includes the plate number, the date and time, the location where the photograph was taken, and often the direction of travel. Private companies operate ALPR networks for commercial purposes like parking enforcement, where they track vehicles entering and leaving parking facilities to manage payment, and vehicle repossession, where they track vehicles that are subject to repossession orders. Law enforcement agencies operate their own ALPR networks for traffic enforcement and investigative purposes. And increasingly, these various databases are interconnected through data sharing agreements allowing law enforcement to query comprehensive records showing where a particular plate has been detected across multiple systems. If investigators identify a vehicle through Walmart parking lot footage and determine that the registered owner is a person of interest, they can query ALPR databases to determine where that vehicle has been. Was it detected near Nancy's neighborhood on January 31st or in the early morning of February 1st? That would place the vehicle and likely its owner or driver at or near the scene during the time frame when Nancy disappeared. Was it detected in the area on January 11th, the date that has emerged as potentially significant based on both Google Trends search data and a neighbor's request for Ring camera footage? That would corroborate other evidence suggesting surveillance or reconnaissance occurred on that date. ALPR records can show patterns of movement and behavior that are investigatively significant. If a vehicle is detected repeatedly in a specific neighborhood over a period of weeks or months, that suggests familiarity with the area. If a vehicle is detected at unusual times like late at night or early in the morning in residential areas where it does not belong, that suggests surveillance or suspicious activity. If a vehicle is detected leaving an area shortly after a crime occurred, that creates a timeline connection worth investigating. ALPR data does not prove guilt, but it provides corroboration and context that strengthens cases built on other evidence. The vehicle can also become a target for physical surveillance if investigators determine that the registered owner is a person of interest but do not yet have sufficient evidence for arrest. Physical surveillance is resource-intensive because it requires multiple trained personnel working in shifts to maintain continuous coverage without the subject becoming aware they are being watched. But in high-priority investigations with serious crimes and strong persons of interest, those resources are allocated. Surveillance teams watch the residence where the vehicle is registered. When the subject leaves in the vehicle, the teams follow at a distance using multiple vehicles that rotate positions to avoid detection. They document where the subject goes, who they meet, what locations they visit, if the subject returns to areas near Nancy's home, if they engage in behavior suggesting anxiety or attempts to check whether they are under investigation, if they meet with known associates who might be involved. All of that activity is documented and becomes part of the case file. Physical surveillance can also create opportunities to obtain DNA samples for direct comparison to the glove DNA if the person of interest has not been identified through forensic genealogy or if additional confirmation is needed. When the subject discards items like coffee cups, water bottles, cigarette butts, or tissues, surveillance teams can collect those items from trash or from public locations where they were discarded. DNA on those items can be extracted and compared to the crime scene DNA. If the comparison shows a match, that provides scientific proof that the person under surveillance is the person whose DNA was in the glove found near Nancy's home. The investigative process becomes layered and multidimensional once vehicle identification through parking lot cameras produces a name. That name opens investigative avenues that did not exist when the only information was that someone paid cash for a backpack at Walmart. Background checks reveal criminal history, employment history, residential history, family connections, financial records if subpoenas are obtained, social media presence, and associates. Interviews with people who know the subject can reveal information about their behavior, their movements, their state of mind, their potential motivations. Electronic surveillance through court-authorized wiretaps or tracking devices, if probable cause can be established, provides real-time information about communications and locations. Financial records show purchases and transactions that might connect to crime preparation, or to attempts to dispose of evidence, or to unexplained expenditures around the time of the crime. The goal is to build a comprehensive case that goes beyond identification to establish opportunity, means, and motive. Identification through parking lot cameras and license plate analysis tells you who purchased the backpack. But prosecution requires proving that the person who purchased the backpack is the person who wore it to Nancy's home, used it during the commission of the crime, and is responsible for her disappearance. That proof comes from the convergence of multiple independent lines of evidence all pointing to the same individual in ways that eliminate reasonable doubt. The challenge that investigators face is that each piece of evidence in isolation might be explainable through innocent circumstances. Someone purchased a backpack at Walmart. That alone does not prove they used it in a crime. Someone searched for Nancy's address on Google according to search records. That might have been innocent curiosity or might have been for legitimate reasons like sending her something. Someone's phone pinged cell towers near Nancy's home at 2 a.m. They might have been driving through the area for unrelated reasons. Someone's DNA shows genetic relationship to DNA in a glove found near the scene. They might have a relative who lost a glove unconnected to this case. Each individual piece can be questioned or explained away. But when the same person appears in multiple independent evidence contexts, When they purchased the backpack and searched for the address and had their phone near the scene and are genetically related to the glove DNA, the probability that all of those connections are coincidental becomes vanishingly small. That convergence is what prosecutors rely on to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And that convergence is what investigators are working toward right now, as they cross-reference the Walmart purchaser list against every other piece of evidence in the Nancy Guthrie case. We do not know yet whether the Walmart parking lot camera investigation has identified who purchased the backpack. That information, if investigators have developed it, has not been made public. Investigations routinely develop information long before it becomes publicly known. The process of subpoenaing records, reviewing footage, identifying vehicles, running plates through DMV databases, and building cases around identified subjects happens confidentially. Investigators do not announce progress until they are ready to make arrests or until they have strategic reasons to release information publicly to generate additional tips or to apply pressure to subjects under investigation. But we can assess with confidence that the parking lot camera methodology is being used actively right now. It is standard procedure in cases like this. When a product exclusive to one retailer is identified in crime scene evidence, transaction records are subpoenaed. When those records include cash transactions, security footage is requested to identify who made those transactions. When that footage shows vehicles, license plates are analyzed and registered owners are identified. This is not theoretical or experimental. This is routine investigative work that happens in retail-connected cases every day across the country. The value of parking lot cameras extends beyond just vehicle identification. The footage also captures behavior and timing that can be corroborated against other evidence or that can reveal consciousness of guilt. If someone made a cash purchase of a backpack late at night or early in the morning when most people shop during normal daytime hours, that unusual timing might be significant. If someone parked far from the entrance in a remote section of the lot rather than near the building where most customers park, that might suggest desire to avoid cameras or to avoid being seen. If someone appeared nervous or furtive in the footage, constantly looking around or behaving in ways that suggest anxiety, that behavior can be noted and analyzed. The integration of retail security systems with investigative databases and with surveillance technologies like ALPR has created an environment where anonymity is increasingly difficult to achieve. Every retail transaction creates data through transaction logs, even if names are not captured. Every building is monitored by cameras that document everyone who enters and leaves. Every parking lot is under surveillance that captures vehicles and plates. Every license plate is registered to an owner whose identity and address are in government databases. The infrastructure of modern commerce and modern government record-keeping doubles as an investigative resource that law enforcement can access through legal process. For someone planning a serious crime, the challenge is not just avoiding one form of evidence. It is avoiding all forms of evidence across multiple systems that do not communicate with each other automatically, but that can be brought together through investigation. You can pay cash to avoid creating financial records with your name. But you cannot avoid security cameras that record your physical presence. You can wear a mask to avoid facial recognition while committing the crime. But you cannot make your vehicle invisible when you drive to Walmart to purchase equipment. You can dispose of physical evidence like gloves. But you cannot control what DNA you inadvertently leave inside those gloves before disposal. You can avoid having your own DNA in CODIS by never being arrested. But you cannot prevent your relatives from taking ancestry tests and uploading their DNA to genealogical databases that law enforcement can search. The layers of evidence and the systems that generate and store that evidence are so numerous and so interconnected through investigative methodologies that defeating all of them simultaneously requires a level of perfection and foresight that very few people can achieve. And every mistake, every oversight, every moment where you forgot about a camera or did not realize a system was tracking you becomes a thread that investigators can pull to unravel your entire plan. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for more than 3 weeks now. The investigation continues with intensity and with comprehensive deployment of resources. The Walmart backpack identification has created a traceable connection to purchase records and to security footage that documents every transaction. Cash transactions that might have seemed anonymous at the time they occurred are being investigated through parking lot camera analysis and license plate identification methodologies that defeat the anonymity cash was supposed to provide. Names of purchasers are being identified through vehicle registration records and are being cross-referenced against every other piece of evidence that has been developed, including the FBI's 40-name suspect list, forensic genealogy candidates from the glove DNA, Google search records if those exist and are traceable, cell tower data showing phones near Nancy's home during critical times, and any other investigative leads. Somewhere in that comprehensive cross-referencing process, convergence may be happening or may have already happened. The person who bought the backpack at Walmart and paid cash, thinking that the cash would protect their identity, may also be the person whose DNA is in the glove, may also be the person who searched for Nancy's address on Google for months before the crime, may also be the person on the FBI's 40-name list developed through other investigative avenues, may also be the person whose phone was detected near Nancy's home at 2 a.m. on February 1st by cell tower data. And if those connections exist, if the same name appears in multiple independent evidence contexts, the case against that individual becomes powerful. If you have information about this case, if you know someone who purchased an Ozark Trail backpack at Walmart in the Tucson area in the months before Nancy disappeared, if you have any knowledge about who might be responsible or about suspicious activity in Nancy's neighborhood, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at their non-emergency line, 523-514-900. Crime Stoppers accepts anonymous tips if you prefer not to identify yourself. $200,000 in total rewards are available through the FBI and through Crime Stoppers for information that leads to Nancy's recovery or to the arrest and conviction of those responsible. Information that seems small or insignificant to you might be the detail that connects everything for investigators who are working this case systematically and comprehensively. Subscribe to True Crime Vault right now if you have not already. Turn on all notifications so you are immediately alerted when we post new content covering developments in this case. Like this video because your engagement directly impacts how many people see this detailed analysis of how investigations actually work. Visit our channel to watch our other comprehensive coverage of major criminal cases where we break down forensic techniques, surveillance methodologies, and the systematic investigative processes that solve crimes. Comment below with your thoughts on whether parking lot cameras will successfully identify the backpack purchaser, and whether that identification will lead directly to resolution of this case. The comment section on this channel is intelligent and engaged, and we read every comment and often respond to questions and observations that viewers raise. Nancy Guthrie deserves to be found. Her family deserves answers. The investigation is active and ongoing, with multiple investigative threads being pursued simultaneously. Evidence is being analyzed systematically. Technology is being used to its full potential. Walmart parking lot security cameras are being reviewed to identify who purchased the backpack visible in the FBI footage. License plates are being read from that footage and connected to registered owners through DMV databases. Names are being cross-referenced against suspect lists and against DNA candidates and against digital evidence and against everything else that has been developed over 3 weeks of intensive work. And when that systematic analysis produces identification, when convergence happens and multiple pieces of evidence point to the same individual, we will be here explaining exactly how it worked and what investigative methodology made it possible. True Crime Vault covers this case until resolution.